Good morning, Year 8, and welcome back to our second lesson in our unit Aspiring Asia. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at Asia's biomes. So here is our checklist for today. So we've got our starter, and I'm going to ask you to name the Asian animals in the photos. Task number 1 is a keyword and definitions matchup. Task number 2 is to read through the information about biomes. Task number 3 is to make a list of 10 Asian animals. Task number 4 is to watch the video on deforestation in Asia. And task number 5, this is the task that you will be submitting to your teacher. This is your extended writing task on biodiversity in Asia. And your plenary is to watch the video on palm oil. So let's have a little look at our objectives for today. So we're going to be recognising and naming some of the Asian biomes and animals. And we are going to link the biomes with some examples of animals. And then finally, we're going to be able to describe and explain the biodiversity of this continent using examples and geographical terminology. So let's just have a little look at our starter here. I want you to look at these images and name some of these Asian animals that you see. Some might look a little bit more familiar than others. But let's have a little think about the fact that remembering from our last lesson that Asia is the largest continent in the world. It is a continent of incredible biodiversity. So you might be able to remember from our epic ecosystems in year 7, you might be able to remember some of these words such as biomes and biodiversity. We will be talking about this in some more detail over the next few slides. Have a little look at those images. What do you recognise? And let's see which ones that you've got right. So here we have the panda, which is native to China. We've got the proboscis monkey, which is native to Borneo. We've got the elephant, and this actually would be an Indian elephant, and that's not to be confused with our African elephant. So African elephants are obviously native to Africa, and the Indian elephant would be the elephant that we find on our continent of Asia. And we can tell the difference by their ears. Indian elephants have much smaller ears, and actually African elephants have ears that almost look like the continent of Africa. They are that type of shape. We have the red panda, which is also native to China, and the Malay tapir, which is native to Indonesia, and we've got the pangolin. And this interesting looking animal is actually very sadly the most trafficked animal in the whole world. It is an animal of scales, and unfortunately these scales are considered very valuable in places like China. They're used in traditional Chinese medicine, and this poor little animal is trafficked all over the world from parts of Africa and also within this continent of Asia. Unfortunately, there is no evidence to suggest that the use of these scales is actually effective in any medicine. So the trafficking and the poaching of these animals is a very lucrative business, and I'm afraid certainly not a very nice one at all, and something that lots of activists and environmentalists are trying to reduce the numbers of these animals being trafficked all over the world. So here are our key words for you to think about through this lesson. We have diversity, which hopefully you will remember from lesson number 1. You might remember the diversity that we looked at in the continent of Asia. And we should be able to remember that that is the fact that something contains many very different elements. I want you to have a go at completing the other keyword matchups with their definition, and if you're using the PowerPoint, you can just move the arrows, or if you're working on your PDF, you can just draw the arrows to the definitions. But let's just remind ourselves of some of the meanings of the other words, because you might remember them from epic ecosystems. I would pause the slide right now and just write down what you think in terms of these definitions, and then I'll be able to go over them. So let's just have a little think about biodiversity. So as we have said, Asia is the largest continent in the whole world. Okay, so it actually stretches from the Arctic Circle and right down to just below the equator, which means that there is incredibly high biodiversity. And what we mean by that is the range of plants and animals in a given area. So we know that actually, because Asia is such a huge continent, it has very many different climates across this continent, and then that leads to different biomes. You might be able to remember from epic ecosystems that biomes are large-scale ecosystems, and you might remember from lesson number 1 the different types of biomes that we looked at. The starter image of the last lesson looked at the rainforest in Thailand. It had the tundra in Russia. It had the desert in Mongolia. And we had the taiga coniferous forests that are also found in parts of China, Japan, and again Siberia. And so with all of those different biomes, we know that Asia is a continent of incredible diversity. However, there are some considerable issues going on in certain parts of Asia as well, and we have got our word, another keyword here, deforestation. So you might remember that word from your Age of Stupid unit, deforestation, and that is the permanent removal of trees to make room for something besides forest. So our trees, our rainforests are cut down all over the world for very many different reasons, which we will look at in some more detail over the next few slides. So task number 2, I want you to read through the information on this slide, and it is taking you through Asia's biomes. Okay, so we have a map here to the right of the slide and the different types of biomes that we find in Asia, our largest continent in the world. And so where we have the tundra, which is this grey area at the top of the map, it sits on around the Arctic Circle, our line of latitude there. The landscape that you find in the tundra is incredibly different to the type of landscape you would find in the rainforests. Now, if you look at the key here, our rainforests are this green colour here, and we find those on or around the equator and up to the tropics. Okay, so vegetation and animals have adapted to the different types of biomes in which they live. Now, of course, you might remember from epic ecosystems, the type of climate is all to do with how far away from the equator some types of ecosystems lie. I would like you to go through all the images on this slide, read the information, and remind yourselves of the different types of biomes that we have in Asia. Task number 3, I'd like you to use one of the links on this slide to write down 10 different types of animals that you find in Asia. And your challenge is to maybe add another 4 to 5 examples of animals to your list. In fact, what I'd also like you to do is add a few different countries in which your animals are native to. For example, you've got the panda, which is native to China. That would be extra information that you could add to your challenge task there. So task number 4, okay, this is a documentary, it's a short documentary I'd like you to watch with Harrison Ford. So he is not only an actor, you might have seen him in Indiana Jones or possibly Star Wars. He's also an environmental activist, okay, and he is looking at the deforestation that is happening in Indonesia. So every year, acres and acres of ancient rainforest is cleared, often to create room for palm oil. And palm oil is really found in many, many products, from our chocolate to bread to shampoo to ice cream. Palm oil is a very lucrative business, and sadly the ancient rainforests and all the animals that live in these forests are cleared, and they have to find new habitats to live in. So this is a very big problem for our environment, which keeps happening because of the money that can be made from selling palm oil. So your final task is your extended writing task, and this is the task I want you to submit to your teacher. Okay, so you're going to be writing for 10 minutes, and I mean a minimum of 10 minutes, about the biodiversity of Asia. Just remember that biodiversity means the range of flora and fauna in a given area. Okay, you can use this writing frame if you want to, but there is also a few points here that could help you if you're going to be writing without a writing frame. Okay, so I want you to write the title, Biodiversity of Asia, extended writing. Okay, and then write an introduction explaining the meaning of biodiversity. Okay, and then describe and explain the different biomes and variety of animals. So use specific examples. I want you to go back to that slide, looking at the different biomes within Asia and the different types of plants and animals that you would find there. So I went through a couple, but there are a few more for you to go through and to understand and to talk about in your extended writing. Okay, I want you to write about some of the environmental issues. So we know that a huge environmental issue is deforestation, which is happening over many different parts of Asia. Then finally, I want you to write a conclusion that gives a short summary of your writing. Okay, so here there is a writing frame which you could use if you want to. And then for your plenary, I want you to watch another short video, and this is also about the palm oil industry, okay, and specifically palm oil industry in Indonesia again. So please ensure that you have completed all of the tasks in this lesson, but you are only required to submit the extended writing task to your teacher. I hope you have a good lesson and looking forward to seeing all of you in a week from now. Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye.